So the reason the episode is slightly delayed this Monday is because Matthew and I have been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Viking Simulator 2020.
Actual Viking Simulator.
I don't think either of us have played, at the time of recording, that much. So
No, I've played about 3 hours, which
I
is
played around 2 to 3 hours.
As we know, in Assassin's Creed games, is like
It's
literally
literally nothing.
ocean. It's like nothing. I
The
might as well
title
have
card
just
hasn't even
watched-
appeared yet.
the title screen hasn't. Actually, it hasn't. Has it appeared? It hasn't. You're right.
In Origin, was it Origins? Yeah, Origins. It appeared like 5 hours in, and I was like, "Oh right, that hasn't appeared yet."
So you're right. I haven't seen the title screen. So these are really some really light impressions on like 2-3 hours, like we said.
But I feel like the game gets you going pretty quickly. It doesn't really
It
waste
does,
time.
yeah. But I'm gonna come out and say that this is mind blowing to like everyone, me included. I've never played an Assassin's Creed game before.
That is fucking shocking.
I don't know why, because from the very original Assassin's Creed through to all of the editions and versions that came out after, I've just never felt compelled to play them. In fact, the only one I really felt compelled to play is Odyssey, and to this day, I just have not got around to it. I own Origins, watched Lenska play it a bit. I was like, damn,
What a
this
game.
looks like a good time. I still
Origins
haven't
is
played it.
so good. Oh my god.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna play some Valhalla because now I don't have a choice. It's a review game. Yeah.
I mean, you have a choice. You don't have
choice.
Ubisoft holding a gun to your head.
Yeah, but we don't tell
I
our
mean,
listeners
you
about the
could,
gun you're holding to my head. You're like, you will play this so I can talk to someone about it. Okay, fine.
I think playing this as your first Assassin's Creed will make going back to even Origins and Odyssey, it will make them difficult to go back to. Because obviously from Origins onwards, they turned into full-on RPGs. Like before then, they were action-adventure games with some light sprinkling of RPG elements, you know. These are, I mean, Origins felt like I was playing The Witcher. Odyssey, the very little I played was just like that times 100. I felt Odyssey was far too big, like far too much stuff.
I think as good as Odyssey is, like there's no doubt that it's a good Assassin's Creed, but I think the general consensus across the board is that there's a lot to do.
Too much,
Like
yeah.
so much to do on the level of, I consider The Witcher 3, as good as it is, there's a lot of side stuff that you could
Also too much.
You know, it's way too much.
Yeah.
So I think Odyssey is that and more maybe. Like,
Yeah. And that's why, if I'm not mistaken, I might be talking out of turn here, but Ashraf Ismail, who actually left Assassin's Creed Valhalla because of some misconduct allegations against him. You can go back a few episodes to hear about those. But when he still was on the project, he spoke about how Valhalla will be slightly smaller and more focused. And I was like, yes, that sounds fantastic.
Look, if you're the sort of person who does enjoy the open world of The Witcher 3 and Odyssey, like you might be a bit disappointed, but I don't think that's to say this game's shorter. Look, I think overall there's maybe less content, but the fact that it might be more focused, more honed in, like I don't think that's a bad thing.
I mean, even just so in the first 2 or 3 hours, well, I haven't made it to England yet. I don't know if you have.
No. I'm still
So we're still in Norway and still in like the like frozen little islands where these little like different camps of Vikings are, and the small piece of land where your homestead is I mean, I say it's small, but like you can take a horse and ride around it, and there's a lot of places to visit and mountains to climb and side activities to find. So, and that's just one small area. So I think there's definitely that if you're craving that. But I do feel like there's not 10 million things trying to draw my attention around every corner, so I can focus on going to one area or one waypoint and doing the, what are they called? The small little side quests? World events, which are
It's
pretty
like
cool.
world events, I think, yeah. There's world events, there's artifacts. There's like a little, your map's got, it's actually it's like a light smattering of destinations, which I don't like. We can't say that that's how the whole game is because I don't know what England's like. I don't know if if the map might be littered with a ton of side quests or whatever. But at the moment, the starting area feels like it eases you into the world, which is really cool. It is
So-
like yeah.
No. So I want to know, like, your map. So we're playing on different exploration modes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this was introduced in Odyssey. I'm not entirely sure, but you have 3 different ways to alter your experience. You have exploration difficulty, combat difficulty, and stealth difficulty. So exploration difficulty is like how much information is given to you on your map. I think on the hardest one, you're given a little bit of information, and you're forced to use like waypoints in the world, or like common sense really to navigate to your area. I
Yeah.
like it because there's no HUD. There's like just my little compass, which is fantastic. You chose the default one. So on my exploration, or Pathfinder, I think it's called, mode, the little world events are just colored beams of light, and
Yes.
I only reveal what they are when I get close to them. Is that the same on the default one?
So when you say the little beams of light, can you pull up your map and look at it, and you can see there's like a blue dot or a yellow dot, for example?
Yes, I can see the yellow dots, but it still doesn't tell me what it is.
That's weird because like I think in my mode, for example, I can see there's a blue dot, and I think it does indicate it's a world event, for example. If I see a yellow dot, it's like it's a treasure, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it doesn't tell me it's a specific kind of treasure. It just says like, hey, there's a treasure here. or
Oh,
something.
okay. So mine
So
does that
it's-
as well. It's like blue is mysteries,
Yeah.
yellow is gold, and red is something else. But
Yeah.
only when I get close, it's like, oh, this is a world event versus an artifact versus a.
I don't know. I think maybe the only thing that changes in is maybe the fact that you have a compass. My navigation toolbar is one of those that it's like a strip across the screen.
Yeah,
And if
that's what it is. Yeah. Well,
so
that's
I
a
don't know what
compass.
the difference is then. Yeah, I mean a compass, but then I don't know what the difference is.
Maybe it
then
hasn't
between the two.
introduced the differences yet while I'm
Maybe, yeah,
getting to
maybe
grips
later
with the
on.
game. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I do
okay.
know in Odyssey, the Pathfinder or exploration mode was like you literally have to read like signposts on the road to navigate and stuff like that.
Oh no.
That wasn't in Origins. What I did in Origins was I dived into the menus and turned off a lot of the UI because I found like I'm looking at this beautiful Egyptian game, and I've got like weapons on the side and abilities on the right side of the screen and this on the top, and so I just like stripped it all down till I had that little like compass thing on the top, and that's it. Like that's all I really need to know at any given time. So
Yeah.
I think you can alter your HUD independently of your exploration difficulty, and I would advise that because man, this game I mean, we're both playing on PS4 only.
Yeah. You playing on the Pro though.
Yeah, I'm playing on Pro, you playing on base, but it is a good looking game. Like,
It's really pretty, yeah.
I really like how good this looks. It's got a lot of, I found like they've saturated a lot of the color. At first I was like, oh, this looks a bit like almost like fake. Like the fire looks really red and orange. And then when you see the northern lights, they're really blue and that green.
It's super pretty.
But I think that's like sort of the style they went with. It's like this mix of definitely realistic, but almost like hyper realistic color to it. It looks really good. Really,
I mean,
really
the
good.
snow is very bright. My eyes were like, ow.
Yeah, I mean,
what's going on?
I'm playing
Not-
in
not in a bad
HDR
way,
as
it's-
well,
it's-
and that sun blinds my eyes. It is so bright. And when I think maybe it will change depending on what region you are, but at least in this Nordic region, it's like snowing and you've got lots of grey clouds, but you've got like the sun peeking through the clouds, and it just creates these beautiful vistas.
I mean, being on the ocean, looking at the reflections of the water, and like you said, the sun just peeping through the clouds. I mean, I was just sailing along and just padding around my long ship was going down.
Yeah.
A longboat, longboat.
I think it's a
don't know.
longboat, yeah. And climbing up to viewpoints like the eagle points, like the nice sun gleaming off the rocks, and it's like the small details that I notice, like because I played Origins not so long ago. It was like probably earlier this year or end of last year. Like I can see the jump. Like Origins was a good looking game. It was a good looking game also because of its setting and its lighting, but this is like another level. It almost feels like it feels like another generation, which makes me interested to see it's on
What
like
it'll
a
look like,
PlayStation
yeah.
5 and Xbox. Well, I know that on there you're running at like 4K and 60 frames. So this
Sure.
game at 60 frames will be super
Beautiful.
nice. Yeah.
Well, on that, you mentioned climbing. So yes, like I've said, Valhalla's my first touch point with Assassin's Creed. But I know Breath of the Wild, for example, was the game that broke open world games in that if you see a mountain, you can climb it. Okay, Valhalla's definitely like that. Like you can literally climb any damn surface, which blows my mind. I'm like, I've got a waypoint marker of their shit, but this is a big mountain. Let me try to climb it, and Evil just go YOLO's up the side
Yeah.
of that mountain. And I'm like, damn. At what point did Assassin's Creed become that? Was it from Origins?
Yeah,
Okay,
from
so
Origins. I mean, there's a bit of leeway. Like Origins, you could climb mountains with, with sensibility in mind. You can't climb like sheer cliff faces that clearly have no like texture to them or anything. Also, like if you, at least in Origins, if there was an enemy camp and there's like walls to their bases, if there's no like little windows or footholds, like I can't climb up a whereas Breath of the Wild, you can just YOLO up a fucking like straight faced wall. It doesn't care.
I don't know how much you've tried climbing in Valhalla, but there's a lot of stuff I was climbing where at one point there was a waterfall and I went behind the waterfall and I just straight up climbed its surface. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know if that's possible in real life.
I do feel like Valhalla, and I think this was also Odyssey also like extended that leeway a little bit. Yeah, but Valhalla you can climb like anything.
The only thing I found is there was one point in the map where like it was a golden point or a waypoint marker. It's like, I want to climb up to get that, and it was basically reached like the peak, and it was surrounded by ice. I just couldn't get up
I know
there.
exactly what you're talking
So I was
about.
like,
yeah,
how do you get up there?
Yeah, to go around it. Yeah. That's honestly you're experiencing one of my favorite parts of Assassin's Creed that has been there from the get-go is synchronization points or the eagle points. So they are high points in the map where you go up there, you press a button, you get a panning camera view, and your map gets like filled in,
revealed. Yeah,
and that's been in since the first one, and it's always just like always been my most fun activity, especially in the earlier games where climbing was more like a puzzle, like figuring out how to get up top was just really fun. Although I don't know if it's because Eivor, at least where we are now, isn't an assassin yet, but man, she cannot figure out how to like gracefully jump off of those eagle points. There's no like haystack for me to jump into, or
there's just water, and it's like.
But on this cliff that we're talking about, there was nothing. So I just YOLO'd into the snow, and I nearly died. I don't know if I misunderstood where I needed to jump or something. I jumped down a waterfall, and she did almost like an army paratrooper thing where she crossed her arms and she like hit the water, which was pretty cool. Yeah. Speaking of which, did you choose what Eivor did you choose?
I chose Lady Eivor just because I'm curious to see how that gender plays out in the setting. Because I think Assassin's Creed is very. I don't know if the story will change accordingly, but I think it does based on your gender. Like I think people interact with you differently or not.
Well, Odyssey definitely did that.
Yeah.
In a big way. But Odyssey was the first one where you could choose.
Yeah.
This one's weird because the default is both, which makes very little sense to me.
I don't know how that happens. It says like depending on the story, like you can be either or, and I'm like, okay, that means nothing to me at this stage. So,
I mean, it tries to explain it away by being like, the Animus has 2 DNA streams and it doesn't know what gender Eivor was, so depending on the scenario, it's going to try predict. And it's like, okay, that's a stupid lore way of trying to explain what you're doing, but like, to me, in a story, how am I going to connect to side characters when I don't even know who my main character is at any given time? So, I mean, that option's there as a default. I would not recommend. I would choose either, female or male Eivor, but I also chose female Eivor. I think she's really cool. She's like a really gruff Viking.
She'll beat your shit.
Do you know, it took me like an hour to figure out why they called her Wolf-Kissed. And then I realized I was like, oh, right.
That to me, I was like, so obvious.
Every time she kept showing people her scar, I was like, wow, that's a
Like,
hectic
how did that
scar.
happen?
They're like, why are they calling her wolf kiss? Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, I get it
But
now.
I mean, I suppose that's a good segue into, I suppose, the foundation of the story, because we've spoken a bit about mechanics and just general Assassin's Creed stuff, but the setting of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if you didn't know, is that it is obviously the Viking Assassin's Creed, which I think a lot of fans have been wanting for a long time.
What's it like? 830.
It's 800 and something.
Yeah,
definitely.
800 and something. Yeah, 800 and something.
But the premise is you basically as a child witness I don't know if it's like a warring I take it it's a warring clan or something. Basically take over your village and kill your parents in front of you. And then in your
Pretty
escape,
terrible.
yeah, look, that intro but like I was joking with you saying like, oh, this game, this, that. I'm now dancing, like it's so weird.
Hey,
what's
that
going
dancing
on.
was cool. I really enjoyed that.
But I think the first 10, 15 minutes, it does set up the story nicely. Like I was like, that is a really strong intro. And the reason Eivor is called Wolfkiss because in the escape, you basically, him or her, you get mauled by a wolf.
Yeah.
And you have this very nasty scar on your neck.
Yeah, you make this scream, and the wolf is just like, cool, I'm not fucking with that anymore.
Yeah, and then the story basically just yeets you like
17 years
Is it
into the
18
future,
years?
yeah.
And at this point, Eivor she's still part of the same sort of village, leading her own crew, and that's basically the story picks up.
Still trying to take revenge on the
she's
Viking
trying to
clan.
take revenge on the Viking who. But so the reason she's so pissed off is because the Viking told her that if you yield, I'll spare your people. So her dad yielded, and the dude didn't spare her people. So,
Yeah, and then killed her mother. It was like pretty
and then
gruesome,
killed her mother. So it's quite like there's motive there, and that's where the story picks up as an adult Eivor. And like we said, you get to choose male, female, and you just go about your day-to-day business in a very frosty Norway, which is the opening chapter, I guess, before you end up in England.
Very frosty. I mean, if you're in water for too long, you'll die. That's how frosty it is. It's
I don't like how people in this game even get into the water.
yeah, it's real cold, man. It's real. I felt really bad for that horse at the beginning that just got up on the ice and just fell in that water.
Just fell.
Rip horse.
I was also like, rip. I know you're a digital horse, but rip.
Yeah, jeez, I felt super bad. Yeah, I think the story sets up really nicely, but it also doesn't waste time. It's not like
it gets you into things pretty quickly.
Yeah, gets you going. And I mean, I guess the central conflict of, the Vikings and the Saxons hasn't really come into full view yet, but there was a lot of infighting with the Vikings as well. And I like this idea of establishing this is your homestead and this is what you're protecting. I don't know if you saw in the UI, it's like when you first got back to your homestead, it's like people are happy to see Eivor back. So I wonder if there's a mood thing that you got to manage.
I think there will be. I mean, I could be speaking out of turn here, but I vaguely recall seeing stuff in either marketing material or early demos. Like I could be wrong though, but it seems that way. Because why would they tell you? Like they're happy to see you.
Eivor, they're happy to
Cool,
see you.
man,
Hey,
that's nice.
There's also loads of activities to do in your, at least right now in my homestead, which are really cool. There's a drinking game, which is
you
ridiculous.
and I were having such a laugh yesterday because I think I was saying all the mini games. It's like it's our modern day youth, but in a Viking setting, basically.
It's really good.
So there's a straight up drinking game where you have to outdrink your opponents. As Vikings do. Who can handle their alcohol better than the other.
Who can take their mead better.
There's a mini game called Flight. I think it's flighting.
Yeah,
or
flighting.
Yeah, which is basically a rap battle.
Epic rap battles of history.
It's like a rap battle in the year 900 or 800, whatever this year said.
It's so good.
Yeah, where your opponent starts off and has like a line, whatever, and then you have to obviously follow up. But as this tutorial Flight tells you, it's like you have to pick, you get presented with 3 options. You have to pick what fits or what responds best to what your opponent gave you. So what is the cadence of your words? Does it rhyme? That sort of thing. And it's
and
very
also
clever.
fitting theme. Yeah,
Yeah, and it follows the theme.
yeah.
I was like, what is this game? This is incredible.
The theme one was the one that caught me out because the teacher at the time was being like really silly, and I basically replied with a threat to kill him, and he was like, "Wow, you really misunderstood what I was saying there."
Yeah.
Just quite funny.
So I mean, I presume these are the basis, or this is the basis for these mini games further along in the story. I mean, the most important one that we'll get to is the dice game. I can't remember what it's called.
It's so good.
But Valhalla has I always find it amazing that games like this, even like, sorry, to go back to The Witcher as an example, Witcher had Gwent, which has now spawned its own side game. A lot of Final Fantasies, for example, in my experience, have a side game which is like a game in itself that's worth putting time into.
Really? I don't recall one in Final Fantasy 15.
Maybe not 15, but in okay, maybe some of the older ones, but in 8, for example, there's a card game. 9 also had a card game. It's like these side things that are just worth investing time in.
15 just 10, had chocobo races.
Maybe 10 had a Blitzball, which is its own like.
Whoa, that sounds cool.
Basically like football league, but not.
Is this why everyone says 10 is the best Final Fantasy because it has football?
It's got fake football.
Fantastic.
But now, so sorry, those are my touch points. Valhalla has a game like that. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but it's basically a dice game. And you and I were messaging. You and I were actually playing more or less at the same pace last night. We were,
yeah, it was
just
quite
ahead of
interesting.
me
Yeah.
then. But then we both played the dice game more or less at the same time. And I was telling you that when they explain it, like any game, it seems so complicated. They're like, okay, you've got these dice, and then there's all these symbols, and you've got these god favors, and you're like, this is a lot to take in. But I kid you not, like 2 turns in, I was like, oh, it's actually very straightforward, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it's a great little game. It took me a while to figure out that the dice with the like little border, that's what was giving you god favors and stuff like that. But I think it's like visualized in such a way, like the turns are visualized in such a way that you can see what's happening. Yeah. It's a really cool little dice game. Like I never got into Gwent in The Witcher 3. I really like the standalone game a lot. And I think I didn't get into it in The Witcher 3 because you had to find cards. This dice game is not like that. It's like you don't need to find specific dice. You know what I mean?
I think the only thing you'll find in this game is your God ability.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I imagine
it's a cool game.
Yeah, it's
really
very cool.
game.
I think the hook of this game is that, I don't know, I could be wrong, but you probably go to different villages in future and there'll be different god boons to like win from the person you play against.
100%. Yeah, I definitely see that as the like setup for this is everywhere and this is what you play for. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see myself putting time into this game alone.
Yeah. So there's drinking game, there's rap battles, there's dice game. There's also like, you've got your merchants and whatever. You've got a merchant that can give you tattoos, which is really cool. And you can. There was one little side mission where the reward was a new tattoo design, which is dope. Like I can get tons of tattoos. That's awesome. I also really like the look of Eivor's armor. Like really nice.
The first set you get, I mean, this is not a spoiler, but you get a set very early, and I suppose it kind of does resemble the key art or the sort of art we've seen. In marketing material, and it looks really cool.
What's really cool about Assassin's Creed fashion is that it always kind of harkens back to like a singular motif. Like, I mean, if you look at the old games, it was always like, okay, this guy's got a hood and he's got some white and red on him. Like Ezio had that, Altair had that, all of them had that. And then as soon as they started getting more complex with the costumes and more like, this fits the time period and you don't look like a fucking hooded murderer all the time. Like they had to get inventive with how you looked. So like Origins is really good because you wear very little clothing, but you've got like a hood to protect you from the sun, but you've got that red sash. And like in Valhalla, like you've got very thick clothing to keep you protected from the snow. You've got like a fur coat and whatever, but you've still got that red sash. And it's like, that's the touch point. That's the motif. And it just looks really good. I think it's a cool design.
Well, speaking of on that, the whole Assassin's Creed theme, have you met, I'm terrible with character names now.
The northern people, not yet.
No, not the northern people. Your what have you done story-wise? Have you just been messing around in the hub?
Yeah,
basically?
so I was messing around a bunch in the hub yesterday, and then I did all the like side quests there that I needed to do, and then I visited was it the sage, that lady in the hut?
Seer. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I've done. I haven't gone back to speak to the king yet. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have an assassin's blade or anything yet?
No, I don't have any of that. I know that's coming because they're like, oh, there's visitors from the north. I'm like, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah, because I was like, despite not knowing anything about Assassin's Creed games, purely because I've never played them, I'm like, I can kind of get why assassins existed in, the original Assassin's Creed, like in Italy and all these places, these...
like during the Crusades.
Yeah, during the Crusade. Yeah. But then like, so I don't know Origins and I don't know Odyssey, but I was like, I don't know, like a Viking assassin just seems so, like I can't put my finger on it, but I've seen the connection. I'm like, oh, like this is how they're introducing it. And I'm curious to see how the story unfolds in that regard, because it is like, I may not know a lot about Assassin's Creed, but I know it's all wrapped up by the Animus and like DNA strands and like
that
this
stuff
whole...
is far less important to focus on.
No,
really.
I know it's far less important, but I know there's kind of this through line of like you following like this lineage of assassins, like that's really it at a top level view. But I was like, I don't know, like Vikings in media or just in history have always been portrayed as like, they're just big, strong warriors. Like I can't imagine sneaking around, whatever. But I'm interested to see how the story, like the Assassin's Creed story, touches on this part of history.
I mean, the thing I'm excited for that I haven't got to yet, but that I've seen in the marketing is they've brought back a lot of elements that made older Assassin's Creed games, like my favorite, that were removed in Origins and Odyssey. So, I mean, you've seen the thing where if you crouch in high bushes, you're hidden, right? In Origins and Odyssey, that was the only way to hide.
You couldn't like blend into a crowd, for example, or whatever.
So they've brought that back here, which they call social stealth, which I absolutely love. It was introduced in Assassin's Creed 2, where you can, a group of people, you blend in. Yeah, it's really cool. So I'm super glad that they brought that back, and they've also made stealth kills instant, because in Origins and Odyssey, you had to have a certain level of your hidden blade. Otherwise, it would do some damage and that was really annoying. So here it's like you can just stealth through everything. So it's those little touches that I'm really keen to get stuck into, and it's why I put the combat difficulty on hard, because I want the game to stress my stealth ability. Like that's how I like playing Assassin's Creed games. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So you put your combat on hard, but there was actually a stealth setting as well.
So I didn't want to put the stealth on hard because I find that stuff really artificial. It's like, the guy can detect me from like fucking miles away or stuff like that.
The dude uses the force to sense your presence. Like, how?
No, exactly. I want the stealth to test me, but like I don't want the combat to be easy enough where if I get detected, then I can just brute my way out of it. Like, if I get detected, I want there to be like a consequence to that. So that's why I put the combat on hard.
Well, I mean, I suppose we could talk about the combat a bit. That for me, I mean, and it's not me criticizing the game. It's more that I've been spoiled with other games that I prefer the combat. So like, if I think of the God of War, which interesting enough, Norse setting, I'm quite chuffed to have another game set in the Norse world because with an axe, and like there's mentions of Odin and Valhalla and Helheim, all these places which I do want to learn more of.
Can't wait till Kratos arrives in the end credits.
I sincerely hope there's like a God of War. Listen, Hades let me down. There's no Kratos reference anywhere that I can see.
Unbelievable.
If they have a I don't know, like a Leviathan,
imagine there was
axe,
just a line of Zeus just being like, I had this son. He was so disrespectful. He went off to the Norse world. Like that would have been great.
Yeah, come on, Supergiant. That's like a missed opportunity. But anyways, what I was getting at is that in terms of combat, when I think of really good games that have really good combat, I do think of God of War. Or like God of War for me was a perfect thing of the combat is not like overly complex, but it's complex enough that it's like it's somewhat complex, but it's not overly complex that no one can pick up the game and just know how to play it.
Yes.
But then I also think of games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, which have me very spoiled for choice with combat.
How dare
they're
you
really
bring
good.
up the best game on the PS4?
The combat in those games is really fluid, you know? Like, weapons feel good and motion just feels solid. Maybe it's an Assassin's Creed thing, but it feels somewhat more static to me, if that makes sense.
No, I agree.
Which I suppose maybe it means you have to be a bit more strategic, but it doesn't flow as nicely as I'd like it to.
Yeah, it almost feels like, to me, everything's delayed. Like,
there's
I
like
hit
a
a
very
button and
slight
there's like
delay,
there's like a molasses feel to the combat. And to be fair, that's been there since Origins and Odyssey. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like they went in this direction of trying to make the combat. I mean, it's easy to say the combat is more Souls-like, and that's not to say it's Souls-like in difficulty. It's just in the makeup. It's like you've got light, heavy attacks. You lock onto enemies. You dodge and you parry. In this one, you even have a stamina bar, which is new.
Is that new? Okay.
Yeah, that's completely new.
I do want to touch on that as well at some stage.
The stamina bar, yeah, we'll chat about it, but I think it's a really clever thing. But yeah, it just feels like I'm often just mashing on a button and like hoping for that animation to end. It doesn't feel as fluid either way, so it's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with the combat.
So like I say, it's not me criticizing the game. It's just I'm spoiled where I'm like, this isn't Bloodborne. This isn't God of War. Like, those to me are just standout examples of combat that I really enjoyed.
I do like the thing where you can. So they've also got like so you can equip weapons. You've got two, like, main hand and secondary hand. But you can equip an axe in each of them. You can equip a shield in your main hand, and that changes your combat. I think there's a lot of stuff that, as the game progresses, there's a lot of variations that you can do. And there's also, like, cool little chains in combat that you can initiate to break defenses. Like, it feels very satisfying to do, like, a light attack and then a heavy attack that breaks an enemy shield and staggers them. Like, that feels awesome. But, yeah, I don't know. It just... Right now, like, maybe there's something that needs to click with it, because it's not my preferred way of playing right now.
Yeah. Well, just to go back to the stamina bar, I do like how that functions. So I'm glad you pointed out that didn't exist before, because I didn't know that. But basically, if you use an attack where it's allowed to heavy, you use stamina. And when you dodge, you also use some stamina. However, if you connect a light attack, you gain stamina.
Yes.
Yeah,
you only lose stamina on a missed heavy attack
if you
as well.
miss. So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. If you missed the attack, but it's interesting that it makes you chain combos together in a different way than you might have otherwise, because it is a thing of like, well, I'm going to start with some heavy attacks, and then I'm like, oh, my stamina's low. Let me get some light attacks in here to build up that stamina again. And you can you can basically attack infinitely if you strategic about it, which is really cool. Like, I enjoy that.
Yeah. I think there's a nice flow where I faced a very strong enemy that I shouldn't have at my level, and it showed me very quickly how, like, if you just block, every block you take with the shield destroys your stamina, and it's very easy for you to be in a situation where you have no stamina, so you can't dodge, you can't block, and the only way to get stamina back is to attack. So it's like a very aggressive facing or aggressive focused combat system, which is pretty cool.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it makes me think me think of Bloodborne, because Bloodborne it rewarded you for being aggressive.
And I think the health system, so the health doesn't replenish automatically. You can pick up healing items that create like a ration that you can use. Yeah, you pick up berries. Yeah.
I wish that worked like that in real life.
The best healing item in the world. And I assume you'll create more pockets for more rations, because right now I can only keep one at a time. Yeah, but I think on hard, the combat is suitably like challenging. Like, the two bosses I faced were like hard. And also the bosses have a stamina meter, which you can break by parrying, which... I feel like, we've played two games like this now, Sekiro and Fallen Order, but it doesn't feel like those two. It doesn't feel like that's a focus, put it that way.
I
but it's
haven't
there.
really explored that properly. I'm not blocking with my shield. I'm dodging because I'm dual
Yeah,
wielding.
and also the parrying again, because the combat feels a bit like delayed. Like finding
I
the
haven't
timing
quite
on the
gelled
parrying
with
is
it.
not fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but I mean, again, early days. We've still got a long way to go.
I rate that 60 frame per second mode. That will make the
that'll
parrying a lot
difference,
smoother.
Yeah. I mean, look, the performance on the base PS4 is fine, but I don't know how your frame rate is in the PS4 Pro.
It's
If
good.
Is it good?
It's
Okay.
solid. It's like it's a 30, but so far it's rock solid. So it feels smooth, and the game looks good. So I'm happy with that.
I must say,
It does make
whenever I
my
launch,
PS4 super loud, but yeah.
mine too, join the club. I must say, every time I start a game on my base PS4, I'm like, oof, like, because I mean, I've got a really nice PC. I play 120 frames, 144 frames, the good stuff, whatever. So when I go back to PS4, I'm like I can feel these load. Like the first thing I told you is like the load times in this game are painful. But
yeah, so I didn't know what you meant when you were like, oh, even for conversations. I'm like, what is he talking about?
No, it's so I should clarify. When the game started, it was weird because that opening area, like you start off in a room, then you go and you open a door, and there's like a 4-second delay, and I was like, but I've just loaded into this room. Like, why is there this delay? Then I walk a bit, then you can see it's triggered a conversation, like the camera's going to pan, but there's like a 2-3 second delay. And
I did notice that. Yeah.
So it started like that, but then I can say through the rest of the game, I haven't felt that at all.
You see, so I thought you were talking about, because when I got to my homestead, every time I spoke to a character, there was a brief black screen, a brief loading screen, and then only the talking. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why doesn't it just transition straight into the dialogue? So
yeah.
SSDs, man, can't wait. What a time to be alive.
I don't know if this is me just being impatient. Like, come on, man, I need that fast storage on the next gen consoles. But I can say that initially that was where I felt it in the starting area. There was like weird delays. I was like, oh, that's not great. But what I was getting at is that the performance on the base PS4 is functional. So although I'm coming from PC, whenever I start a game in PS4, I'm like, oof, like I can see the age here. But after my 2-3 hours, it was fine. Like that was my reference point, and it plays absolutely fine. So
I think performance wise, from my few hours, I've no complaints yet. I wait to see when I get to a bigger city or something like that. But I mean, new consoles have the patches for free, and apparently it's really good on there. So I think when the embargo lifts, we'll see more Digital Foundry style
stuff.
analysis.
But
it's good. Listen, I think about 2 hours into Watch Dogs, I was super bored. Watch Dogs Legions. I'm having the exact opposite effect here. Like it actually hit me yesterday. I was like, I am enjoying this far, far more than I was Watch Dogs as a sandbox. So I'm very happy to keep playing.
Yeah, I can tell you, like, I mean, again, these are just very early impressions, but I'm very keen to go back and play more. Like, I think those opening 3 hours were enough for me to be like, although I haven't really done side quests, anything, I've just been doing my own thing, but it's enough for me to go, like I want to keep exploring this world. I want to level up, get different weapons, and like I said, I want to see how, like, why is this an Assassin's Creed game and not just some Viking game, So
I'm pretty sure by Monday when this episode goes up, I would have played a lot more. So I'll be listening back to this and being like, man, either I'll be like, yeah, this got really good, or fuck, that opening was real good and now the game's shit. But I highly doubt that. Like, I mean, Origins had a really slow start, and it grew into that start. And I feel like this has just got a super strong start from the get-go.
I think, the start is pretty solid. Come Monday, you quote retweet the episode like, man, ignore this video. This game's terrible.
Shit. Yeah, nah, I don't think that's the case. I think if you're gonna pick a Ubisoft sandbox, for your holiday or for your new console, I would definitely right now, even based on the little I've played, recommend this over Watch Dogs Legion, which I found very boring. So
just on that, why would Ubisoft release? I know they're two different games, but they're two open world Ubisoft games. Why would you release Watch Dogs Legion and then Valhalla? Like,
who the fuck knows? After? I would. That's not something I would do. Yeah,
I did not make that connection until you told me yesterday. Like, I'm enjoying this more than Legion. I was like, why did they do that?
Two massive sandboxes.
Why
and Valhalla would have released like a week off of Cyberpunk 2077 as well. You know, outside of
I
its delay.
think that delay is going to do this game some massive favors.
Huge favors. I think that was. I mean, Ubisoft didn't plan for that, but I think it's super
I
good.
can tell
for
you,
them.
the Ubisoft team breathed a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
All we need now is for Rockstar to come up like GTA 6 out on November 9th.
Shadow dropping a new
Ubisoft people are
GTA.
like, no.
My goodness.